Hello. The topic of today's broadcast is, do you look at your life with hope or despair? Well, if you've not met me before, my name's Alison Wem from Your Soul Family, and I do a weekly broadcast on different topics for life. So how did I come by Your Soul Family? There we teach techniques about feeling in control of your life so that you may be more effective at work and live more harmoniously at home. Well, how did I come to these techniques? In my 40s, I was unexpectedly widowed and I suddenly found myself with 2 children, a demanding job and no partner to help me. And I really was not coping with my life. As a consequence of that, it took me some time and some pain and effort to know how to rebuild my life. But the techniques that I found by trial and error are those that I now teach at Your Soul Family. Well, anyway, on to today's topic. Do you look at your life with hope or despair? Now, I think all lives have their life challenges. And how you approach them can be very different, and the different approaches can have very different outcomes. Now, in this culture of celebrities, you might look at the rich and famous and think that they have everything, but nobody has everything. Now, they might have, big houses and fast cars, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And they may well have troubles around maybe relationships or health problems. You don't know. Everybody has challenges. And when I talk about challenges, I'm not really talking about big house, achieving a high-flying career or big houses and fast cars. It's about learning life lessons, learning things like, how do you listen to people? Are you listening actively and letting them say what they want to say? Are you defining your boundaries and holding to them? Well, let me tell you a story about one of my students. She was in her probably late 20s, and she felt her career wasn't going where she wanted to. So in her view, the way she described it is she said, I dropped out of my career and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I sort of went travelling, spent some of my precious savings, and I'm still finding what career I want to do. Now, she was from a very high achieving family, and they were gathering up for Christmas and she was really dreading it. Her granddad could see that there was something worrying her. So he took her to one side and said, "What's the problem?" And when she described it in her life and how she felt amongst her high-achieving family, her granddad said, "You're looking at your life from despair. You need to look at it from a different perspective. This is how I see your life, from a position of hope. You've had a successful career for the last 5 years. You have done really well in it, and you have given people a lot of value in it. But you haven't had the insight into yourself to know that this isn't what you wanted to do. It wasn't taking your life in the direction you wanted to take it in. You had the courage to step out of that career, to walk away from the income and the comforts that it brought. And you had the insight into yourself to know that you needed to refresh yourself. So you had the courage not only to step away from that income, but to spend some of your precious savings on going travelling, where you could look at the beauty of nature, swim in the sea, walk amongst the mountains, walk in the forest, and have a dialogue with yourself to know really what it is you wanted to do and what you could bring to a potential future employer. You returned to the UK, and fortunately, I believe, because of your skills in your career to date, you were offered a temporary contract for 6 months doing your old career. And you had the courage to take that again, knowing you're not going to go back into that. You knew you weren't going to go there. But it gave you 6 months to define the career you wanted to go into and to seek out a potential employee. So the granddad was saying to his granddaughter, from a position of hope, you were doing all the right things in your life. You were learning about yourself. You were learning life lessons, and you had the courage to follow your intuition. So that was a very different view on life. So tell me, anybody on the live or anybody in the following on in the replays, have you ever been in that position, or do you know anybody who has been in a similar position? Drop me a comment or a like just to let me know. Do you agree that you can reframe and think at your life from a positive perspective? And I think that positive perspective helps you achieve an outcome that you want rather than an outcome that just sort of happens. Come on, drop a like or a comment. So when we talk about a life, is it a worthwhile life? I don't think large houses and fast cars are necessarily, not necessarily, I don't believe that they are an indication of a worthwhile life. They might be an outcome for somebody trying to strive for what they wanted and going about it. Yes, I agree. But I think a lot of us have an outcome, a good outcome in their life, if they are learning the life lessons they came here to learn. And they can be simply things like learning to listen, holding a boundary, defining and holding your boundary, not allowing somebody else to push you around, feeling in control of your life. They are all worthwhile things to achieve, and therefore makes it a worthwhile life. So think about the most difficult times in your life. My belief is that actually you build stronger relationships in those difficult times. And those difficult times can be at work or can be at home. I can think about times in my life at work, in business, where everything was falling down around me. But it was in those times that I often built much stronger relationships with my team or my client or my supplier. It was a case of saying, we are where we are. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to work together to get all of us to a better place? So some of those difficult times can actually be periods of significant personal growth, not only for you, but for the people around you. And I believe and I feel that it is at those times you start to learn about who you are. Do you like who you are? I know in business sometimes I didn't like who I was. I wasn't doing the things that I held in high value. And I had to change the way that I behaved. And then I could move my life to being more where I wanted it to be. I then started to create a life more that I wanted to be. And I felt that I was trying to achieve my highest potential. And I feel that all of you can do the same. So back to that question. Do you look at your life from a position of hope or a position of despair? Now you could say the examples I've talked about aren't that significant. They felt significant to me, but you might not believe that. So let's look at someone who was in a more extreme positions. Let me give you 2 examples. So the first one is a man called Viktor Frankl, and he wrote this fabulous book. It's called A Man's Search for Meaning. Now let me tell you about Viktor Frankl. He was a professor in the University of Vienna in the late 1930s. He held degrees in medicine and philosophy. And he also lived 3 years in Achau or Dachau or some of the other concentration camps in World War II. And I think his book is very much a testimony to what hope can do. Throughout his time in the concentration camps, he believed, he had hope that he would survive the war and he would walk out of one of those concentration camps. It really is a testimony to hope, and I really recommend the book to read. It really does express the power that hope can bring. Let me now talk about another example. There's an old film about Titanic. Titanic was a cruise boat that sank to the bottom of the sea in its maiden voyage, and it sank in the Arctic waters that were terribly cold. A lot of people perished in that event, but many survived. And at the time when that film came out, a lot of studies had been held, and they were reporting about how people reacted in disasters. And what they were saying was that people that lived those disasters but approached them from a position of hope and a determination to survive had a much greater survival rate than those that approached it from despair. So in the Titanic instance, and that story, although it is a Hollywood one, is about 2 people on board, a boy and a girl, or young man and young woman, who were in love. And the young man, who was full of life and hope, helped his girlfriend to survive. And in the waters, he encouraged her to kick her legs and to keep going. And it was those that did that survived, and those that allowed the cold waters to numb their senses and to allow their bodies to just sink into despair. So I think that shows again that hope is very powerful in helping you to create the life you want, rather than just letting your life happen. So let me know, whether you're on live or replay, let me know. Do you agree with me? Do you feel that approaching your life in hope helps you to create the life that you want? Thank you. Thank you. So let's think about your greatest challenge. You think about what your greatest challenge now. It might be around finance, it might be around a relationship, it might be around your health. Tell me how you're approaching it. Are you approaching it from hope, or are you approaching it from despair? Think about my student and the dialogue, her internal dialogue. She was talking about her life and the repositioning of the dialogue her granddad was trying to do for her. He comes with much more life experience, and he was trying to encourage her to have a different internal dialogue, which was from hope rather than from despair. And with that internal dialogue, it creates much more life opportunities that she was seeking out. And what are you doing? Are you having a conversation with yourself about hope, or one from despair? Tell me about it. Be honest. I don't mind it's from despair, but perhaps by listening some of the messages in this chat, perhaps you can change your own dialogue. Do you feel your challenge is too big? Well, my mum always used to say to me that you're never presented with a challenge that's too big for you, and that your shoulders will broaden to bear the challenge, or bear the burden of that challenge. You will never not be able to cope. And in all of that, she always told me you always had choice. You could choose, right, I'm going to tackle this challenge. Or if not, you can always choose to walk away from it. Might take some strength to do that, but you're never trapped. You always have choice. And the actions that you take when you come from a position of hope, which brings you strength, might be the same actions, but you do them with a different mental state. You may accept the situation, but you won't accept it with resistance and resentment. You will accept it from a position of joy. You may choose to just let go and walk away from it, but you'll do that with a sense of strength in yourself and a belief in yourself. And you will see yourself maybe in a better position, being healthier, being prosperous, being in a better relationship. You'll see yourself there, and therefore the hope from seeing yourself there gives a much better chance of it happening and creating the life that you want. So the question was, do you look at your life from hope or from despair? My reply would always be, look at it from hope. Hope brings you power. Hope brings you strength. Hope brings you an ability to create the life that you want. So that's me, Alison Wen, on this week's broadcast. Same time next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m, with another life and living topic. In the meantime, do have a look at my website, yoursoulfamily.com. There's some blogs, there's some free resources. Download the templates if you want. Have a look at the blog, but by all means, download the free soul map templates. Start to colour them. It will help to bring in your calmness, and with that will come your strength and access to your internal you. Some call it your soul, your higher self, your subconscious, whatever you want to call it. For me, it's your inner you, and your inner you will bring to you your own personal wisdom. Bye for now. See you at the same time next week. Bye.